My daughter's heart stopped at 9:47 p.m. At that exact moment, my son-in-law posted a party photo with her surgeon. I'm Gregory Sullivan. For 30 years, people saw a hospital janitor. What they didn't know, I secretly owned the entire hospital. I built the cardiac unit where my daughter Carolyn fought for her life. I funded every machine keeping her alive. But while Caroline flatlined on the operating table, her husband Blake was on a yacht, dancing with Dr. Walsh, the woman supposed to save my daughter's life. Both of them posted Instagram stories, laughing and drinking champagne, while my little girl's heart monitor went silent. Blake thought he married up when he got Caroline. He had no idea he married the janitor's daughter, the same janitor he called the help, the same man he refused to shake hands with because my uniform was probably dirty. What Blake didn't know was simple. I owned his house, his job, his BMW, his entire life. I didn't scream when I saw those party photos. I didn't rage when Caroline's alarm started blaring. I just made 3 phone calls. 3 calls that would strip everything from the man who abandoned my dying daughter. By morning, Blake would learn what happens when you betray a family that built their fortune on loyalty. You know what's beautiful about justice? Sometimes it's served by the person everyone underestimated. I hope you'll stick around for this story. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment, letting me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to see how a father's quiet love becomes the most powerful weapon against betrayal. This all started 3 weeks ago with a phone call that changed everything. October 15th, 3:22 a.m., Caroline collapsed in her kitchen. Massive heart attack at 31 years old. I got the call while finishing my night shift at San Diego Memorial Hospital. Same hospital where I've worked maintenance for 15 years. Same faded blue Dickies uniform with Sullivan embroidered on the pocket. Same 2014 Chevy Silverado in the employee parking lot. Blake arrived at the hospital 90 minutes later, hair still perfect. BMW M3 with the personalized plates. Blake MVP. He walked right past me in the waiting room, didn't even nod. The nurse asked if we were family. I'm her father, I said. Blake looked at my uniform. He's the maintenance guy, he told her. I'm the husband. The nurse looked confused, but handed Blake the clipboard. I stood there holding my tool belt, like some stranger who wandered in off the street. Dr. Jennifer Walsh came out in her surgical scrubs, tall, confident, Mercedes keys clipped to her pocket. She shook Blake's hand first. Long handshake. Eye contact that lasted 3 seconds too long. Mr. Hoffman, I'm Dr. Walsh, cardiac surgery. Your wife needs immediate intervention. I cleared my throat. I'm her father. Dr. Walsh glanced at me, then back at Blake. Of course. Family conference room in 10 minutes. Blake put his hand on my shoulder, patronizing, like I was some old dog. Greg, why don't you get us some coffee from that machine you probably know how to work? The nurses at the desk looked uncomfortable. They knew me. 15 years of night shifts. They'd seen me fix their computers, unclog their sinks, replace broken lights. But Blake didn't know any of that. Actually, I said quietly, I'll stay. Blake's jaw tightened. Look, this is complicated medical stuff. Maybe it's better if... I'm staying. Dr. Walsh cut in smoothly. Of course, Mr. Sullivan. Family members are always welcome. In the conference room, she spread out charts showing Caroline's damaged heart. Explained the procedures, the risks, the costs. Insurance covers the basics, she said, but optimal care, that gets expensive. We're talking about $45,000 daily in the ICU. Specialized equipment, round-the-clock monitoring. Blake's face went pale. 45,000 per day? Don't worry, I said. Money won't be an issue. Blake laughed. Actually laughed. Greg, no offense, but your maintenance salary isn't covering... It's handled, I said. Dr. Walsh made a note. Excellent. We'll prep Caroline for surgery immediately. After she left, Blake pulled me aside. What did you mean, it's handled? You taking out a loan against that little house? I just looked at him. This kid who thought my daughter married up, who made jokes at family dinners about blue-collar wisdom, who refused to shake my hand because it was probably dirty from all that janitor work. Blake, I said, I've got it covered. Right. He checked his Rolex. Look, I need to handle some work stuff. Big client meeting tomorrow. Caroline would understand. Your wife is having heart surgery, and I'll be here for the important parts. But I can't just drop everything. Some of us have responsibilities. He walked away, designer shoes clicking on the hospital floor. Never once asked about Caroline's condition. Never asked what he could do to help. But Blake had no idea who was really paying for that $89,000 BMW. The ICU admission forms needed a financial guarantor signature. Dr. Walsh handed me the pen. I signed G. Sullivan. She looked at the signature twice, but didn't say anything. What Blake didn't know was that GS Foundation had been covering uninsured medical expenses at this hospital for 15 years. Every piece of equipment in Caroline's ICU room, every monitor, every pump, every life-saving device. I built this place. Now my daughter was fighting for her life in it, and her husband just left to handle work stuff. Caroline's surgery took 8 hours. I stayed the entire time. Blake left after 2 hours for his client meeting. The first night, she was stable but critical. Machines keeping her alive. Ventilator breathing for her. Heart monitor showing rhythms that made my chest tight. I sat in the family waiting area, still in my maintenance uniform. Other families looked at me like I was lost, like maybe I should be fixing something instead of sitting there. Dr. Walsh found me around midnight. Mr. Sullivan, Caroline's responding well. We'll know more in the morning. Thank you. The financial department wanted to verify. You mentioned money wouldn't be an issue? I pulled out my wallet. Inside, behind my hospital ID card, was a business card. Simple white card with black text. GS Foundation Medical Trust. Call this number, I said. Ask for Samuel Brooks. She looked at the card. GS Foundation? They handle medical expenses for families in situations like this. What I didn't tell her was that GS stood for Gregory Sullivan. What I didn't tell her was that Samuel Brooks was my personal attorney. What I didn't tell her was that the foundation had $85,234 in available funds, because Gregory Sullivan, the janitor, couldn't afford his daughter's medical care. But GS Foundation could buy the entire hospital. The next morning, Blake showed up with flowers and apologies. Sorry, babe, he whispered to Caroline's unconscious form. Big deal closed. Daddy's going to be fine now. Daddy. He called himself Daddy to my daughter. I watched him from the corner chair. He spent 20 minutes by her bed, took a selfie with the flowers, then started checking his phone. I need to step out, he told me. Client conference call. She might wake up. You're here. Text me if anything changes. Blake left. Again. On day 2 of his wife's fight for life. That's when I started paying attention to what Blake was really doing. His story was work meetings and client calls. But I had access to things Blake didn't know about. When you've maintained a hospital's IT systems for 15 years, you learn things. Security cameras, phone records, visitor logs. Blake's BMW never went to his office. His visitor badge wasn't used anywhere in the business district, but there was something else. Dr. Walsh's Mercedes was parked at the marina. Every night, Blake claimed to be working. Same marina, same time. Different parking spaces, but close enough. I started documenting. October 18th, Blake's last visitor log, 2:17 p.m. Dr. Walsh's last badge scan, 3:45 p.m. Both cars at Sunset Marina by 4:30 p.m. October 19th, same pattern. October 20th, Caroline had complications, blood pressure dropping. I called Blake immediately. Can't talk, he said. In a meeting. But Blake's car was at the marina, and so was Dr. Walsh's Mercedes. October 21st, I confronted him. Blake, Caroline needs you here. I'm doing everything I can, Greg, but the medical bills are piling up. I need to work. What medical bills? His face went red. Are you kidding? The ICU costs alone are being covered. By who? Your janitor pension? By people who care about Caroline. Blake laughed. Right. Your mystery benefactors. Greg, I appreciate whatever you think you can contribute, but this is real money. Adult money. I need to handle this myself. Adult money. Like I was some child playing with pocket change. Blake, what if I told you the GS Foundation has already guaranteed payment for everything? The what foundation? GS Foundation. Medical Trust. They specialize in cardiac cases. Blake's eyes narrowed. How do you know about some foundation? I have connections. You have connections? He almost choked laughing. Greg, you mop floors. What connections could you possibly... Connections that keep your wife alive. The laughter stopped. Look, he said quietly, I appreciate whatever charity case you set up, but I'm handling this. I'm her husband. I make the financial decisions. And where exactly are you making these decisions? Because you're never here. I'm working. Something you might understand if you ever had real responsibilities. Real responsibilities. Like maintaining the hospital infrastructure wasn't real. Like 15 years of keeping this place running wasn't real. What Blake didn't understand was that if I stopped working, this hospital stopped working. Every electrical system, every computer network, every piece of life-supporting equipment in Caroline's room, I knew exactly how it functioned, because I'd installed most of it. But Blake saw a janitor. He saw someone beneath him, someone who got coffee and stayed quiet while real men handled real problems. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was leaving his wife to die while he played house with her doctor. That's when I decided to find out what was so important Blake couldn't visit his dying wife. October 22nd, I followed them. My shift ended at 6 a.m. Caroline was stable, sleeping. Blake had left the hospital at 11 p.m. the night before for another emergency client dinner. I drove my Silverado to the marina, stayed back, watched. Blake's BMW was there, Dr. Walsh's Mercedes. Both cars parked side by side like some teenage date night. They were on a yacht. Not just any yacht. A 127-foot azimuth called Cardiac Royalty. The irony hit me like a physical bashаш. Through binoculars, I watched Blake and Dr. Walsh laughing, drinking champagne. She was still wearing surgical scrubs underneath a designer jacket. Blake had his arm around the woman who was supposed to save his wife's life. I took photos, time-stamped, geotagged. Then I went back to the hospital. How is she? I asked the night nurse. Stable. But Mr. Sullivan, she asked for her husband around 3 a.m. I told her he'd be back soon. Caroline had woken up, asked for Blake, while he was drinking champagne with her surgeon. I sat by Caroline's bed until she stirred again around 7 a.m. Daddy? Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, sweetheart. Where's Blake? I could have told her, could have shown her the photos on my phone, could have destroyed her marriage right there in the ICU. Instead, I said, he'll be here soon. Blake showed up at 10 a.m. Fresh shower, fresh clothes, coffee in a to-go cup. Morning, babe. He kissed Caroline's forehead. How are you feeling? Better. Where were you? Client emergency. You know how it is. Caroline smiled weakly. I love how hard you work for us. Blake squeezed her hand. Anything for my girls. My girls. Like he had some collection. I stood up. Blake, can we talk outside? In the hallway, I kept my voice calm, professional. Caroline was asking for you at 3 a.m. I was in a meeting. At 3 a.m.? International client. Time zones. I pulled out my phone, showed him one photo. Blake and Dr. Walsh on the yacht deck. Timestamp 3:17 a.m. Blake's face went white, then red, then white again. What the hell is this? You tell me. Are you following me? I'm trying to understand why my daughter's husband disappears every night while she fights for her life. Blake snatched my phone, looked at the photo closer. This isn't what it looks like. What does it look like? Dr. Walsh and I were discussing Caroline's treatment. She invited me to her boat to review the surgical options privately. At 3 a.m. Medical professionals work strange hours. In evening gowns? He handed my phone back. Took a deep breath. Greg, I don't owe you an explanation. You're not Caroline's husband. You're not even paying for her care. Actually, I am. What? Paying for her care. Every penny. Blake laughed, but it sounded hollow. Right. Your mysterious foundation. GS Foundation. You want to see the bank statements? You don't have bank statements, Greg. You have a checking account with maybe $5,000 and a 15-year-old truck. I pulled out my wallet again. This time I took out a different card, a black American Express card with G. Sullivan embossed in silver. Blake stared at it. That's a Centurion card, I said quietly. You know what those require? Blake knew. His sales job meant he understood wealth, real wealth. Centurion cards required $250,000 in minimum spending annually. They were invitation only. They came with personal concierges and private jet access. Where did you get that? I earned it. You're a janitor. I'm a lot of things, Blake. He handed the card back like it was radioactive. Even if you have money, that doesn't give you the right to spy on me. I'm not spying. I'm protecting my daughter. From what? From people who would rather party than be present when she needs them most. Blake's voice got sharp. I am present. I'm here every day. For 20 minutes between yacht parties. That's not... Look, Caroline is stable. Dr. Walsh said... Dr. Walsh said what exactly during your 3 a.m. medical consultation? Blake's jaw worked. I could see him calculating, deciding how much to admit. Dr. Walsh is brilliant. She's saving Caroline's life. If spending time with her outside the hospital helps her give Caroline better care, then yes, I'll do whatever it takes. Including lying to your wife. I'm not lying. I'm managing a complex situation that you couldn't possibly understand. Try me. Greg, you mean well, but this is adult business. Real-world business. I'm building relationships with the medical team to ensure Caroline gets the best possible care. That requires trust. Professional relationships, things that happen outside normal business hours. Adult business. Again with the condescension. You're sleeping with her doctor. Blake's face went cold. That's a serious accusation. Is it wrong? Dr. Walsh and I have a professional relationship. At 3 a.m. on a yacht called Cardiac Royalty, and the yacht name is coincidental. Blake? What? Stop lying to me. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. Greg, I'm going to say this once. Stay out of my marriage. Stay out of my business. You're Caroline's father, and I respect that. But you're also a janitor who thinks he can play in the big leagues. This situation requires delicate handling, adult handling. Leave it to the adults. The big leagues. Like my daughter's life was some game. Blake, I said quietly, you have no idea what league you're playing in. What's that supposed to mean? But the hospital CEO was walking toward us, Dr. Patricia Evans, tall, silver-haired, carrying a tablet and looking important. She saw me and smiled. Greg, how's Caroline doing? Blake's face went confused. The hospital CEO knew my name, knew my daughter's name. She's stable, I said. Thanks for asking, Patricia. Patricia. First name basis with the CEO. Blake looked back and forth between us like he was watching tennis. Let me know if you need anything, Dr. Evans said. Anything at all. She walked away. Blake stood there, mouth slightly open. How do you know the hospital's CEO? I work here. Janitors don't know CEOs by first name. I told you, Blake, I'm a lot of things. That should have been Blake's first clue, but he was too busy calculating how to explain yacht parties to notice that the janitor he'd been dismissing had connections he couldn't understand. His mistake. That evening I had to check something. My keycard opened every door in the hospital. Emergency access. Part of the maintenance clearance. But Blake didn't know that. I took the elevator to the executive floor. 5th floor, restricted access. My card beeped green. The hallway was empty. Thick carpet, oil paintings, offices with nameplates like Chief Financial Officer and Medical Director. At the end of the hall, Patricia Evans, CEO. Her office was dark, but her assistant's desk had a stack of folders marked GS Foundation Quarterly Review. 15 years of quarterly reviews, 15 years of donations, equipment purchases, construction funding. Every major expansion at San Diego Memorial Hospital had GS Foundation fingerprints all over it. The cardiac wing where Caroline was fighting for her life? GS Foundation donated $12 million for construction in 2018. The surgical suites where Dr. Walsh operated? Another $8 million in 2020. The ICU monitoring equipment keeping Caroline alive? $2.3 million worth of cutting-edge technology delivered 6 months ago. I didn't need to see the files. I signed the checks. But seeing them stacked on Patricia's desk reminded me of something Blake would never understand. I didn't just work at this hospital. I built it. My phone buzzed. Text from Blake. Had to step out. Client emergency. Caroline sleeping. Back tomorrow. 9:30 p.m. Caroline had been asking for him since dinner. I rode the elevator back to the ICU. Caroline was awake, staring at the ceiling. Hey, sweetheart. Daddy, where's Blake? Work emergency. Her face fell. He works so hard. I feel terrible that I'm adding to his stress. Adding to his stress. My daughter was apologizing for nearly dying. Caroline, you're not adding stress. You're his priority. I know, but the medical bills. He's been so worried about money. Taking all these extra meetings, staying out late trying to secure new clients. New clients. That's what she thought the yacht parties were. Honey, you don't need to worry about medical bills. Daddy, I know you want to help, but Blake says the ICU costs are astronomical. He's trying to handle everything himself because he doesn't want to burden you. Blake told her he was protecting me from financial burden while using my money to pay for everything and cheating with her doctor. Caroline, what if I told you the medical costs were already handled? What do you mean? A foundation is covering everything, full coverage. No bills, no debt, no financial stress. Her eyes widened. What foundation? It's complicated, but Blake knows about it. I told him not to worry about money. He never mentioned any foundation. Of course he didn't. Blake needed the medical bill's excuse to justify his absences. If Caroline knew there were no financial pressures, she'd wonder why her husband disappeared every night. Maybe he wants to handle things himself, I said. You know how proud he is. Caroline smiled weakly. He is proud. Sometimes I think he works too hard to prove himself, especially around you. Around me? You know, Daddy. You're this strong, capable man who built his life from nothing. Blake admires that, but I think he feels like he needs to show you he can provide for me. My heart broke. Caroline thought Blake was working himself to death to impress me. She thought his absences were about proving his worth as a husband. She had no idea her husband was on a yacht with her surgeon while she flatlined. Caroline, Blake doesn't need to prove anything to me. I know that, but men are weird about these things. He wants your respect. My respect. Blake wanted my respect while disrespecting everything I cared about. He has my respect, I said. It wasn't a lie. I respected his audacity. Caroline squeezed my hand. I'm so lucky. A husband who works himself sick to pay for my care, and a father who... Daddy, how are you handling all this emotionally? This can't be easy on your finances either. My finances. Caroline was worried about my finances while sleeping in a bed I'd paid for, surrounded by equipment I'd donated, in a building I'd helped construct. I'm fine, sweetheart. More than fine. Promise me you won't go into debt for this. Blake and I can handle it. Blake and I, like they were some financial team. What Caroline didn't know was that Blake couldn't handle a dinner check without me. His house? My shell company owned it. His job? The medical device territory he worked came through GS Foundation contracts. His success, his lifestyle, his ability to buy $89,000 BMWs and impress beautiful doctors. All of it traced back to money I'd put into the system. Blake thought he was self-made, but Blake was Greg-made, and he was about to find out the difference. Don't worry about money, I told Caroline. Just focus on getting better. She closed her eyes. I love you, Daddy. I love you too. I sat there watching my daughter sleep in the ICU I'd built, surrounded by machines I'd purchased, while her husband partied with the surgeon I was paying to save her life. Tomorrow, I would start making some phone calls. But tonight, I just held my daughter's hand and waited for her heart monitor to steady. The same heart monitor that cost $380. The same heart monitor I'd written a check for 6 months ago. October 25th, Caroline's biggest test day. The surgical team needed to see how her heart responded without mechanical support. This is critical, Dr. Walsh explained to Blake and me that morning. If Caroline's heart can maintain rhythm independently, we can discuss removing the ventilator. Blake nodded seriously. Of course, I'll be here all day. Actually, Dr. Walsh said, the monitoring period starts at 8 p.m. That's when we'll know definitively. 8 p.m., absolutely. I wouldn't miss it. I watched them exchange glances, quick but meaningful. Greg, Blake said, you should probably head home around dinner. Get some rest. This could be a long night. He wanted me gone during the most critical night of Caroline's recovery. I'm staying. Dad, really? You've been here for days. Take a break. I'm staying with Caroline. Blake's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. At 6 p.m., Blake's phone buzzed. He read the message, then looked up with practiced surprise. Damn. Client emergency. What kind of emergency? I asked. A big account. They're threatening to walk. I need to handle this personally. Blake, I said quietly, this is Caroline's most important night. I know, but this client, if I lose them, we lose the income. Caroline's medical bills, the same medical bills that didn't exist. How long will you be? 2 hours max. I'll be back by 8:30. He kissed Caroline's forehead. Daddy's got to handle some work stuff, babe, but I'll be back for the important part. Caroline smiled. Go save us from bankruptcy. Blake left. I sat with Caroline until the sedation took effect at 7 p.m. At 7:30 p.m., I made an excuse to the nurse and walked to the parking garage. Blake's BMW wasn't in the hospital lot. I drove to the marina. Both cars were there. Blake's BMW and Dr. Walsh's Mercedes. But this time there were other cars too. A small crowd had gathered on the pier. I parked and walked closer. Cardiac royalty was lit up like a Christmas tree. Music playing, people laughing. A party was happening while my daughter fought for her life. I took out my phone and started recording. Blake appeared on the yacht's upper deck, wearing a designer suit I'd never seen. Dr. Walsh beside him in a cocktail dress, not surgical scrubs. They were holding champagne glasses, posing for photos with other guests. The marina crowd was watching them, some taking pictures. Blake was playing host, gesturing grandly, telling stories, acting like some successful businessman with his sophisticated girlfriend. I checked my phone. 8:15 p.m. Caroline's critical monitoring had started 15 minutes ago. That's when Blake posted to Instagram. The photo showed him and Dr. Walsh raising champagne glasses. The caption read, Success is celebrating life's victories with people who matter. Blessed hashash living my best life. Yacht life / power couple. Posted at 8:17 p.m. I screenshotted it immediately. Then I called the hospital. Caroline Sullivan's room? This is her father. Mr. Sullivan? Caroline's doing well. Heart rhythm is stable without assistance. Dr. Walsh should be checking on her soon. Dr. Walsh is in surgery? No, sir. She finished her surgeries hours ago. She should be making rounds any minute. Dr. Walsh was supposed to be monitoring Caroline. Instead, she was drinking champagne and posing for Instagram photos. I hung up and called Samuel Brooks, my attorney. Greg, everything okay? Samuel, I need you to document something tonight, right now. What's happening? I explained the situation. Blake's lies, Dr. Walsh's abandonment of patient care, Caroline's critical night being ignored for a yacht party. Jesus, Greg, that's medical malpractice. Abandonment of patient care during critical monitoring. Can you document it legally? I'm driving to the marina now. Give me the location. While I waited for Samuel, I kept recording. Blake and Dr. Walsh dancing. Blake making a toast about living the dream. Dr. Walsh laughing at something he whispered. Other marina guests were taking photos too. This wasn't some private moment. Blake was making a public spectacle of his affair with Caroline's surgeon. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. Mr. Sullivan, this is Jennifer from the ICU. Caroline's heart rhythm spiked briefly, but she's stable now. Is Mr. Hoffman coming in tonight? He should be there soon. Okay, Dr. Walsh wanted to check Caroline's vitals personally, but we can't locate her. Do you know if she's still in the hospital? I looked at Dr. Walsh grinding against my son-in-law on the yacht deck. I'm not sure where she is. We'll keep monitoring Caroline closely. I hung up. Caroline had a cardiac event while her surgeon danced with her husband. Samuel arrived with a court stenographer and a private investigator. Greg, this is documentation that will hold up in court. Medical licensing board. Ethics complaints. This is career-ending stuff. We spent an hour collecting evidence, photos, videos, witness statements from other marina guests who recognized the unprofessional behavior. At 9:47 p.m., Caroline flatlined. My phone exploded with calls from the hospital. I watched Blake's phone light up on the yacht deck. He looked at it, showed Dr. Walsh, and they both rushed inside the cabin. 5 minutes later, Blake posted another Instagram story. When work calls, you answer. #dedication, #never stop, #grind never stops. He was posting about dedication while racing to the hospital because his wife nearly died. I drove back to San Diego Memorial, ran to the ICU. Caroline was conscious, weak but alive. The medical team had revived her quickly. "Daddy?" "I'm here, sweetheart." "Where's Blake?" The nurse said my heart stopped. "He's coming." Blake arrived at 10:15 p.m., still smelling like champagne, his hair disheveled from the yacht wind. "Babe, I got here as fast as I could. Traffic was insane." He kissed her forehead, then looked at the medical team. "What happened? Is she okay?" The attending physician explained the cardiac event, how quickly they responded, how Caroline was stable now. "Where was Dr. Walsh?" Blake asked, playing concerned husband. "We couldn't locate Dr. Walsh," the physician said carefully. "But the team handled everything perfectly." Blake nodded seriously. "Good. Caroline needs the best care possible." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. Blake questioning Dr. Walsh's whereabouts while knowing exactly where she was because he was dancing with her. After the medical team left, Caroline fell asleep. Blake and I stood in the hallway. "Hell of a night," he said. "Yes, it was. I'm glad I made it back in time." "Blake?" "Yeah?" I pulled out my phone, showed him the Instagram post, the one-time stamped 8:17 p.m. when Caroline's critical monitoring began. "You want to explain this?" Blake stared at his own photo, Dr. Walsh raising a champagne glass, the yacht party in full swing. "This isn't... the timestamp is wrong." "Blake." "Okay, look, Dr. Walsh invited me to a medical conference reception, on her boat, very exclusive, networking with other surgeons who might consult on Caroline's case. A medical conference, in cocktail attire, with champagne toasts. Medical professionals network differently than you might understand. And Caroline flatlined during your networking event." Blake's face went white. "She what?" 9:47 p.m. Your wife's heart stopped while you celebrated on a yacht." I didn't know. If I had known, you would have what? Posted about it on Instagram?" Blake looked around the hallway, checking for witnesses. "Greg, this looks bad, but it is bad. Look, Caroline is fine. Everything worked out. No thanks to her husband or her surgeon. Dr. Walsh is brilliant. Caroline is alive because of her. Caroline is alive despite her. And despite you." Blake stepped closer, lowered his voice to a hiss. "Listen, old man. I don't know what you think you saw, but Caroline is my wife. My responsibility, not yours. You're the maintenance guy who means well, but this is my marriage, my family, my decisions." "Old man. Maintenance guy." "Blake," I said very quietly, "you're right about one thing. This is about family." "Good. Then we understand each other." "We do. Finally." I walked back to Caroline's room. Blake followed. "Greg, I hope we can keep this between us. Caroline doesn't need additional stress." I sat down in the chair by Caroline's bed. "Blake, do you know what GS Foundation is?" "Some charity you mentioned. What about it?" "Tomorrow morning you're going to find out." Blake's face went confused. "Find out what?" But I was done talking. I had 15 years of documentation to review, medical licenses to challenge, ethics complaints to file, and most importantly, I had 3 phone calls to make. The same 3 phone calls that would change everything. October 26th, 6 a.m. I was in my truck, parked outside the marina. Blake's BMW was still there. Dr. Walsh's Mercedes, too. They'd spent the night on the yacht, while Caroline recovered from flatlining. My phone showed 17 missed calls from the hospital. Caroline had another episode around 3 a.m. They'd tried to reach Blake and Dr. Walsh. Neither answered. I called Samuel Brooks. "It's time." "You sure, Greg? Once we do this, there's no going back." They crossed the line. Caroline flatlined while they partied. "Enough. I'll meet you at the marina in 20 minutes. I drove to San Diego Memorial first. Caroline was awake, looking fragile but alert. Daddy, where's Blake? The nurses said they couldn't reach him. He'll be here soon, sweetheart. I scared everyone last night, didn't I? You're a fighter, just like your old man. Caroline smiled. Speaking of fighting, Daddy, I need to tell you something. Blake's been worried about money. He thinks you're struggling to help with my bills. What did he say? He said you're probably borrowing against your house, maybe your retirement. He feels guilty that you're spending your savings on me. Blake told Caroline I was going broke, paying her medical bills, while using my money to fund his affairs. Caroline, what if I told you I wasn't struggling financially? What do you mean? What if I told you I had more money than Blake realizes? She looked confused. Daddy, you don't need to pretend. Blake explained about hospital maintenance salaries. He's not judging you. Blake explained my salary to my daughter, told her I was poor. Sweetheart, Blake doesn't know everything about my financial situation. Daddy, please don't go into debt for me. Blake and I can handle this. My daughter was protecting me from financial ruin while I owned the building she was lying in. I love you, Caroline. Just focus on getting better. I kissed her forehead and left. Samuel was waiting in the marina parking lot with Dr. Patricia Evans, 3 board members from San Diego Memorial Hospital, and Detective Lieutenant Nancy Foster from the Medical Fraud Division. Ready, Greg? Let's go. We walked to the cardiac royalty. Blake's BMW was still parked in the VIP section. The yacht was quiet, curtains drawn. Samuel knocked on the cabin door. Blake Hoffman, this is legal counsel. Please come outside. Movement inside, muffled voices. Blake emerged wearing yesterday's clothes, hair messy, looking hungover. What the hell, Greg? What's going on? Dr. Walsh appeared behind him, wearing Blake's dress shirt and nothing else. Mr. Hoffman, Samuel said formally, I'm Samuel Brooks, attorney for GS Foundation Medical Trust. We need to discuss your financial obligations. Blake squinted in the morning sun. What financial obligations? Your wife's medical care, your house, your job, your lifestyle. I don't understand. Dr. Patricia Evans stepped forward. Blake recognized her immediately, the hospital CEO. Dr. Walsh, Patricia said coldly, you missed critical patient monitoring last night. Care to explain? Dr. Walsh went pale. There was a medical emergency. The medical emergency was your patient flatlining while you were unavailable. Blake looked confused. Wait, Caroline flatlined? 9:47 p.m., I said, while you were toasting your success. Dr. Walsh tried to speak. The patient was stable when I left. Dr. Walsh, Patricia cut her off. You're suspended pending investigation. Security will escort you from hospital premises within the hour. Blake stepped between them. Now wait a minute. Dr. Walsh saved Caroline's life. Actually, Patricia said, looking at me, GS Foundation saved Caroline's life, along with 15 years of equipment donations, facility construction, and medical staff funding. Blake's face went blank. What? Samuel opened his briefcase. Mr. Hoffman, are you familiar with GS Foundation? Greg mentioned some charity. GS Foundation's some charity. It's a private medical trust established in 2009. Primary benefactor and board chair, Gregory Sullivan. Blake looked at me. Gregory Sullivan? But I'm Gregory Sullivan. You're the janitor. I'm also the founder and primary donor of GS Foundation. We've donated $85 million to San Diego Memorial Hospital over 15 years. Blake's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Samuel continued. The cardiac ICU where your wife is recovering, built with a $12 million GS Foundation donation, the surgical suites, $8 million, the monitoring equipment keeping Caroline alive, $2.3 million in cutting-edge technology. That's impossible, Patricia smiled. Blake, meet the man who built our hospital. I pulled out my wallet. The black Centurion card Blake had seen before, plus a checkbook. GS Foundation account balance as of this morning, $85,000 to $34,000. Blake stared at the checkbook, the name printed at the top. Gregory Sullivan, MD, PhD, Foundation Director. MD, PhD, Johns Hopkins, 1987, medical device patents, cardiac monitoring systems. The machines keeping Caroline alive, I invented them. Blake sat down hard on the yacht deck. You're a doctor. I'm a lot of things, Blake. Detective Foster stepped forward. Mr. Hoffman, we're also investigating financial irregularities. Your medical device sales territory, your house, your lifestyle. It all traces back to GS Foundation contracts. Samuel handed Blake a thick folder. Your mortgage is held by Sullivan Properties, LLC. Your BMW lease is guaranteed by GS Foundation Credit. Your sales territory covers medical devices purchased exclusively through GS Foundation Procurement. Blake flipped through the papers. This can't be legal. It's completely legal, Samuel said. Shell companies, foundation investments, strategic partnerships. Gregory Sullivan owns your life, Blake. He just let you think you earned it. Dr. Walsh tried to slip away, but Patricia blocked her path. Dr. Walsh, Medical Ethics Board investigation starts Monday. Patient abandonment during critical care. Professional relationship violations. Your medical license is suspended immediately. Blake stood up, shaky. Greg, we can work this out. Blake, I said calmly, do you know what happens when GS Foundation withdraws support? What do you mean? Your mortgage? Called in immediately. Your BMW lease? Terminated. Your sales territory? Reassigned. Your wife's medical bills? You'll be personally responsible for $847,000 in ICU costs. Blake went white. $847,000? That's just the first 10 days. Caroline's full treatment will run about $2.3 million. I don't have that kind of money. I know. Samuel handed Blake another envelope. Eviction notice for your house. Effective immediately. Security deposit forfeited due to lease violation, specifically bringing the property into disrepute. Blake opened the envelope with shaking hands. Disrepute? Instagram posts showing drug use, alcohol abuse, and extramarital affairs while living in Sullivan Properties. The yacht parties were legal. The mortgage contract includes moral clauses, Samuel explained. Gregory Sullivan has the right to reclaim any property associated with behavior that damages his foundation's reputation. Blake looked around wildly. Marina guests had gathered, watching the confrontation. Some were taking photos. Greg, please. We're family. Family, I repeated. Blake, what did you call Caroline last night when she flatlined? I don't understand. You posted on Instagram about dedication while your wife's heart stopped. You called yourself daddy to a woman fighting for her life while you danced with her surgeon. Blake's legs seemed to give out. He sat back down. Dr. Walsh, Patricia said, hospital security is here. 2 security guards approached. Dr. Walsh looked at Blake desperately. Blake, tell them we were discussing Caroline's treatment. Blake couldn't meet her eyes. Mr. Hoffman, Detective Foster said, you're not under arrest, but we strongly advise you to contact an attorney. Insurance fraud, medical billing irregularities, and potential malpractice conspiracy charges are being reviewed. Blake looked at me with something between rage and desperation. Greg, I'm Caroline's husband. She loves me. Caroline loves the man she thought you were. The man who worked himself sick to pay for her medical care. The man who respected her father and appreciated his help. I do respect you. Blake, you called me the help. You told my daughter I was going broke paying her bills. You cheated on her with her surgeon while she flatlined. Marina crowd was getting larger. People recording on phones. This is going to be on social media in minutes, Blake said. Yes, I said. It is. Blake looked at the evidence scattered around him. The eviction notice, the terminated car lease, the suspended medical license, the hospital investigation. What do you want from me? I want you to understand something, Blake. You married my daughter. That made you family. I gave you a house, a job, a lifestyle. I funded your success for 8 years. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You assumed you deserved it. You assumed the janitor's daughter was lucky to have you. Greg, Mr. Hoffman, Samuel interrupted, you have 30 days to vacate the property. All personal belongings only. The BMW will be repossessed this afternoon. Blake stood up slowly. Where am I supposed to go? That, I said, is no longer my problem. I turned and walked back toward my truck. Greg, Blake called. What about Caroline? She'll want to know what happened. I stopped, turned around. Blake, Caroline is going to recover, and when she does, she's going to divorce you, and when that happens, she's going to inherit GS Foundation. Blake's face went completely white. My daughter, I said, is going to be worth $80 million, and you're going to be homeless. Greg, please. Mr. Hoffman, Patricia said, you're no longer welcome at San Diego Memorial Hospital. Security will escort you off premises if you attempt to visit. Blake looked around at all the faces, hospital executives, attorneys, detectives, marina witnesses. This is insane. Caroline will never believe this. I pulled out my phone, showed him the photos from last night. Blake and Dr. Walsh dancing, the Instagram posts, the timestamps during Caroline's cardiac events. She'll believe the evidence. Blake stared at his own photos. You can't show her these. It'll destroy her. Blake, I said quietly, you already destroyed her. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I got in my truck and drove back to the hospital. Caroline was awake, asking for Blake. Daddy, where is he? Something's wrong, isn't it? I sat down beside her bed. Caroline, we need to talk. Daddy, you're scaring me. What happened? I pulled up a chair close to Caroline's bed. Sweetheart, I have something to show you. It's going to hurt, but you need to see it. I opened my phone to Blake's Instagram account. The posts from last night were still there. Caroline, what time did your heart stop last night? The nurse said 9:47. Why? I showed her Blake's post. The photo of him and Dr. Walsh raising champagne glasses. Timestamp, 8:17 p.m. This was posted 30 minutes before your heart monitor flatlined. Caroline stared at the photo. I don't understand. Blake said he was in a client meeting. Look at the caption, sweetheart. She read it aloud. Success is celebrating life's victories with people who matter. Posted from Cardiac Royalty Yacht. Her voice trailed off. Caroline, that's Dr. Walsh with Blake. But she's my surgeon. Why would Blake be with my surgeon at a party? I swiped to the next photo. Blake and Dr. Walsh dancing, then another. Dr. Walsh kissing Blake's cheek. Caroline's heart monitor started beeping faster. Daddy, these have to be fake. Blake wouldn't... Caroline, there's more. I showed her the video I'd recorded. Blake playing host on the yacht, introducing Dr. Walsh as his partner. The timestamp showing it was recorded while Caroline's heart was failing. No, Caroline whispered. No, this isn't real. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Tears started flowing. How long has this been going on? I have photos going back 3 weeks. Every night, Blake said he had client meetings. Caroline's breathing became rapid. The heart monitor alarm went off. A nurse rushed in. Caroline, what's wrong? I'm okay, Caroline managed. Just emotional stress? The nurse checked her vitals, adjusted her medication, and left with a concerned look. Caroline wiped her eyes. Daddy, why didn't you tell me sooner? I hoped I was wrong. I hoped Blake would stop. But last night he chose her over me while I was dying. Yes. Caroline stared at the ceiling. I defended him. I told people he was working so hard to pay my medical bills. Caroline, about those medical bills? What about them? There are no medical bills. She looked confused. What do you mean? Remember the GS Foundation I mentioned? The charity that's helping us? Caroline, GS Foundation isn't a charity helping us. It's my foundation. I'm GS. I don't understand. I pulled out my checkbook, showed her the name. Gregory Sullivan, Foundation Director. You're Gregory Sullivan? I'm your father, Gregory Sullivan. I've been funding medical research and hospital construction for 15 years. Caroline's eyes went wide. Daddy, how much money do you have? As of this morning, $85.2 million. She stared at me for a long moment. You're serious. Dead serious. But you work maintenance at the hospital. I work maintenance because I like staying connected to the hospital I helped build. Caroline, I have medical degrees from Johns Hopkins. I invented the cardiac monitoring equipment that's keeping you alive. You're a doctor? I'm a doctor, an inventor, and a businessman. I let Blake think I was just a janitor because I wanted to see what kind of man you married. Caroline's face went through several emotions. Shock, confusion, anger. You tested Blake? I gave Blake every opportunity to show respect, kindness, and character. He failed every test. Daddy, I married him. I loved him. I know. And if he'd been a good man, I would have welcomed him into the family and shared everything with him. Caroline was quiet for several minutes. Finally, what happens now? Now you have choices to make. Like what? Blake is going to lose his house, his job, and his ability to pay for anything. He's about to discover that his entire lifestyle was funded by me. You own his house? Through a shell company, yes. His car lease, his job territory, his credit line, all connected to my foundation. Jesus, Daddy. Caroline, I never intended it to go this far. I was protecting our family's interests. When you married Blake, I made sure he could provide for you. By secretly controlling his life? By quietly ensuring he had opportunities to succeed. He could have built something real. Instead, he got entitled. Caroline's phone buzzed. Text message from Blake. Babe, something crazy happened at the marina. Coming to explain everything. I looked at Caroline. Do you want to see him? I don't know. You don't have to decide now. Daddy, is Dr. Walsh really suspended? Yes. Medical ethics investigation. Patient abandonment during critical care. So she could lose her license? Probably will lose her license. Caroline nodded slowly. Good. I trusted her with my life. Caroline, I need to tell you something else. The foundation, when you're fully recovered, it's yours. What? GS Foundation, $85 million. Medical patents worth another $40 million. It all transfers to you. Daddy, I can't accept. It was always for you. I built this foundation to ensure my daughter never had to worry about medical care, education, or financial security. Caroline started crying again. I married Blake because I thought he could take care of me. You don't need anyone to take care of you, sweetheart. You're about to be one of the wealthiest women in San Diego. What about Blake? What about him? When he finds out about the money, Blake will find out about the money when he's homeless and desperate. Then you'll see his true character. Caroline's phone rang. Blake calling. She looked at me. Should I answer? That's your choice. She declined the call. Daddy, I need time to process this. Take all the time you need. But I have one question. What? When did you know Blake was wrong for me? The first time he called me the help in front of you, and you didn't correct him. Caroline winced. I should have said something. You were trying to keep peace. I understand. But marriage isn't about keeping peace with someone who disrespects your family. I see that now. Blake appeared in the doorway, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking panicked. Babe, we need to talk. Caroline looked at me, then at Blake. Blake, she said quietly, I've seen the photos. Blake's face went white. Caroline, I can explain everything. Can you explain why you were dancing with my surgeon while my heart stopped? Blake stepped into the room. It's not what it looks like. Caroline held up her phone, showing his Instagram posts. It's exactly what it looks like. Blake looked at me desperately. Greg, tell her. Tell her about the foundation contracts. Tell her this is business. Blake, I said calmly, our business relationship is over. Caroline looked back and forth between us. What business relationship? Blake, I said, why don't you tell Caroline about your mortgage? Blake went pale. Caroline, there are some financial complications. What financial complications? The house, the car, my job. It's complicated. Caroline's heart monitor started beeping faster again. Blake, she said quietly, I want you to leave. Caroline, please, leave, now. Blake looked at me one more time. Greg, this isn't over. Yes, I said, it is. Blake left. Caroline and I sat in silence for several minutes. Daddy? Yes? Thank you for protecting me. Always, sweetheart. Always. Outside in the hallway, I could hear Blake arguing with security. You can't ban me from the hospital. My wife is a patient here. Sir, you need to leave the premises immediately. This is insane. Greg, you can't do this. But I could, and I did. Caroline was safe. Blake was gone. And justice, finally, was served. The news spread through San Diego's medical community within 48 hours. Dr. Jennifer Walsh's medical license was suspended pending investigation. The California Medical Board charged her with patient abandonment, breach of professional ethics, and conduct unbecoming a physician. Her practice was closed. Her hospital privileges at all San Diego medical facilities were revoked. The local medical society newsletter ran a front-page story. Prominent cardiac surgeon suspended after ethics violations. And the article detailed how Dr. Walsh had abandoned critical patient care for personal activities, resulting in serious patient jeopardy during cardiac monitoring. Blake's employer, MedTech Solutions, terminated his contract immediately. Not for the affair, but for the insurance fraud investigation Detective Foster had initiated. Blake's sales territory, which he'd claimed as his personal success, was entirely dependent on GS Foundation procurement contracts. When those contracts were reviewed, investigators found Blake had been claiming credit for sales that were essentially guaranteed foundation purchases. Fraudulent performance reporting, MedTech's legal department called it. Mr. Hoffman misrepresented his sales abilities and client relationships. Blake lost his medical device sales license. In California, medical sales requires state certification. Insurance fraud violations result in permanent license revocation. Blake couldn't work in medical sales anywhere in the United States. His BMW M3 was repossessed on October 28th. The repo crew found him at a Starbucks, using their Wi-Fi to apply for jobs. The car was towed while he sat inside, arguing with the repo agent about unlawful seizure. "Sir," the agent explained, "the lease guarantee was withdrawn. Your credit application was fraudulent. This vehicle was never legally yours." Blake had to call an Uber from the Starbucks parking lot. The house eviction went through on November 1st. Blake had 30 days to remove personal belongings. When the sheriff's deputy supervised the removal, Blake's belongings filled exactly one U-Haul trailer. 8 years of marriage, Caroline said when I told her. One U-Haul trailer. Blake's social media accounts showed his desperation. LinkedIn posts about seeking new opportunities in sales and excited for the next chapter. But medical device sales companies had already blacklisted him. Word travels fast in specialized industries. By November 15th, Blake was living in a studio apartment in El Cajon, working at a mattress store, $1,200 per hour plus commission. His Instagram account went dark after he posted a photo of himself in a Mattress King uniform with the caption, "New Adventures in Customer Service." The irony wasn't lost on Caroline. He went from selling $50,000 medical devices to $500 mattresses, she said. Caroline's recovery was remarkable. By November 20th, she was cleared for discharge. Dr. Patricia Evans personally supervised her transition to outpatient care. "Caroline," Patricia said during the final consultation, "you have the strongest support system I've ever seen. Your father's foundation has ensured you'll receive the finest cardiac care for life." Caroline looked at me. "My father is full of surprises." On December 1st, Caroline was strong enough to visit the GS Foundation offices. Samuel Brooks walked her through the foundation's assets. $85 million in managed funds, $40 million in medical patent royalties, and controlling interests in 3 medical device companies. "Caroline," Samuel explained, "your father structured the foundation as a family trust. Upon his retirement, you inherit full control." "What if I don't want to retire?" I asked. Caroline smiled. "Then we work together." "I'd like that." We restructured GS Foundation as a joint family trust. Caroline became co-director with equal decision-making authority. Her first act was establishing the Cardiac Ethics Initiative, a program ensuring heart surgeons maintain professional standards and never abandon patient care. "No patient should flatline while they're surgeon parties," Caroline said during the initiative's announcement. "Medical ethics aren't optional." The initiative donated $5 million to medical ethics education at hospitals throughout California. Meanwhile, Blake's consequences continued multiplying. His divorce attorney informed him that California's community property laws didn't apply to assets acquired through fraud. Since Blake's entire lifestyle had been funded by GS Foundation and he'd concealed this from Caroline, he had no claim to marital assets. Your client, Caroline's attorney explained, was essentially living as a beneficiary of his father-in-law's charity while misrepresenting his financial independence. Blake received exactly what he'd brought to the marriage: $3,000 in personal savings and a 2018 Honda Civic he'd owned before meeting Caroline. The medical community's response was swift and thorough. Dr. Walsh couldn't find employment at any hospital within 200 miles of San Diego. Her malpractice insurance was canceled. Her professional associations expelled her. She moved to Phoenix and took a job doing insurance reviews for $25 per hour. Remote work, no patient contact. From cardiac surgeon to insurance clerk, Caroline observed, Justice has a sense of humor. Blake tried contacting Caroline multiple times. Text messages, emails, letters delivered to the hospital, all variations of the same theme. He'd made mistakes, he wanted to reconcile, he promised to change. Caroline showed me one letter that particularly stood out. Caroline, I know I hurt you, but I never meant for things to go this far. I loved you. I still love you. The man you married is still here underneath all the mistakes. Give me a chance to show you I can be the husband you deserve. I don't care about the money. I just want you back. Caroline handed me the letter. What do you think? I think Blake discovered your inheritance amount. That's what I thought too. Caroline never responded to Blake's attempts at contact. On December 15th, the divorce was finalized. Caroline kept her married name, Caroline Sullivan Hoffman, but removed Blake's emergency contact information from all her medical records. I'm keeping the name, she told me, as a reminder. Sullivan reminds me where I come from. Hoffman reminds me what to avoid. The medical ethics investigation concluded on December 20th. Dr. Walsh's license was permanently revoked. The California Medical Board's decision stated, Dr. Walsh demonstrated fundamental disregard for patient welfare and professional obligations. Her conduct represents a clear danger to public health. Blake's insurance fraud case was settled on January 10th. No jail time, but $50,000 in fines and 5 years probation. His credit rating was destroyed. Financial institutions flagged him as a fraud risk. Caroline and I attended the hearing. I wanted to see the end of the story, she explained. Blake appeared in a cheap suit, representing himself. He couldn't afford an attorney. When the judge announced the sentence, Blake looked across the courtroom at us. Caroline met his eyes steadily. Blake looked away further. Walking out of the courthouse, Caroline took my arm. Daddy? Yes? Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. What do you mean? You could have destroyed Blake on day one. Instead, you gave him every chance to prove his character. You let the evidence speak. That's how justice works, sweetheart. You don't attack people. You hold them accountable for their choices. Blake made his choices. Yes, he did. We got in my truck. I still drove the 2014 Silverado and headed home. Caroline inherited a foundation worth $125 million. Blake inherited the consequences of his betrayal. Sometimes justice is simple. You get exactly what you earn. 6 months later, Caroline returned to work as Director of Marketing for GS Foundation. I want to help other families avoid what we went through, she told me. Medical ethics education, family financial literacy, marriage counseling resources. The foundation grew to $130 million under Caroline's leadership. We funded cardiac research, ethics training, and patient advocacy programs across California. Caroline never remarried. I'm not against love, she explained, but next time I'll know the difference between a man who earns my respect and a man who assumes he deserves it. Blake disappeared from our lives entirely. Last we heard, he'd moved to Nevada and was selling used cars. His LinkedIn profile listed Customer Relations Specialist at a Reno dealership. Dr. Walsh left California. A private investigator Caroline hired out of curiosity found her working at a Phoenix urgent care clinic, reviewing insurance claims. She'd never practice surgery again. Do you ever feel bad for them? Caroline asked me recently. I feel bad that they made choices that destroyed their careers and relationships. but I don't regret holding them accountable. Good, because I don't either. Caroline established the Family Trust Initiative through GS Foundation, a program teaching families how to evaluate character versus charm, substance versus style. Money reveals who people really are, Caroline tells the families we counsel. When someone shows you their character, believe them. I still work maintenance at San Diego Memorial Hospital 3 days a week. Caroline thinks I'm crazy. Daddy, you're worth $130 million. Why do you still mop floors? Because the work is honest. Because the patients deserve clean rooms. Because I like staying connected to what we're funding. And because you're checking up on the new cardiac surgeons? Maybe a little. Caroline laughs. You're making sure no one abandons patients for yacht parties. That too. The cardiac wing displays a plaque. GS Foundation Cardiac Center, dedicated to professional excellence and patient care. Every surgeon who works in that wing knows the story. They know a janitor built their facility. They know medical ethics are enforced. Most importantly, they know that respect isn't about titles or status. It's about character and choices. Blake learned that lesson too late. Caroline learned it just in time. Family loyalty requires mutual respect. Sacred spaces demand reverence, and sometimes quiet power speaks louder than flashy arrogance. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Share your story about setting boundaries with family members who cross the line. Remember, you teach people how to treat you. Make sure you're teaching the right lesson.